Welcome to the Happiness Happens podcast. I'm Simona Nicole, host of the show, mindset coach, and motivational speaker. I've made it my mission to help you get unstuck, shift your mindset, and understand your worth to help you live your most purposeful life. Each week, I will bring you an idea, guest, or a positive thought that will leave you inspired and empowered to win your life. We decide the stories we tell ourselves and where we invest our energy. I'm so grateful you popped in. Now let's dive in. Welcome back, everyone, to the Happiness Happens podcast. Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode. I'm very, very excited today because we're chatting with someone who is so near and dear to my heart. We've spoken once before, so you'll recognize her from a previous episode, but her name is Hildie Dunn, and she is a coach for the Handel Group. And our conversation last time was just so incredible, and it was so soul fulfilling. And I know this conversation is going to be equally as powerful. We're going to talk about a few different little things, but it's still going to be such a great conversation. And I think you're going to learn a lot. So Hildie, welcome to the episode. Welcome to the show.
I'm excited to be back. I'm so excited.
Me
too. I can't wait.
I know, I was so looking forward to this all day today. I'm so excited to chat with you. Before we dive on into all of the questions, I would love if you could just tell everyone who's listening a little bit about who you are and what you do. I know that, I've introduced you on the previous episode, but in case they haven't caught that one,
Yeah, my name is Hildie Dunn, and I'm an expert coach for Handel Group, which is an international life coaching company. And so we have divisions in corporate. We go into corporations and we change the culture. We work with individuals, small group, families. We do work through media, and we also have an online digital program. So people could actually take our method and then go work on it with themselves at a pace that's right for them.
I love that. In addition to that, so it's been a while since you and I have chatted. So I would love to know, what has changed for you since since we last spoke? What's changed during this time of, pandemic or any of those sorts of details, coaching specific or in your life specific, whichever one.
All of the above.
All of the above.
All of the above. So, the pandemic and everything that's happened has both myself and all my clients wake up to continuing to think about what really matters. What do you care about the most? So in my own life, I'm going to be a grandma for the third time pretty soon. So I have one, and then 2 or 3 are coming. So the joke is I'm going to need to just save my money for a big, expedition or some big car. Yes. I'm going to have tons of babies in there. But that has also got me really thinking about what I care about the most in my life, what matters most to me, what makes my heart beats count the most. And then it's the same thing with my clients, because they're coming and they're saying, look, there's been a lot of upset, a lot of change, a lot of death, a lot of worry, and all of that, those are challenges that have us stop and think about what we care about the most. Mm-hmm. And that is then having my clients really get good at starting to pivot and change and, shift to doing the things that they have either been scared to do or, haven't known that they wanted to do until they got to this place of a challenge. So for all that, this is such a hard time for so many of us. And in my community, we've lost so many people that I really loved or cared about or respected. But in their honor, it's like, this is the time to do the work. Let's, if we all get a little happier, which is why I love your podcast, all get a little happier. It's like a rock in the lake that just ripples out. So one little happy makes another little happy, which is going to really help change the world. And boy, I think the world could use it right now.
I completely agree with you with that. And I think that's so beautifully put. And I think that, if you think about people's lives specifically, are you noticing these shifts within their personal lives, or like work wise, or like wanting to start a business, or like all of the above?
All the above. I think people are getting a taste of what family life is like that they haven't had, because now they're cooking. You're not, at least around where I am, you're not really going out to that many restaurants.
Yeah.
So there's a whole new focus on healthy cooking, healthy eating, family, what that looks like. You can't socialize with lots of other people. So it's really having families start to do family things and really build new like family traditions, which is beautiful and important. So I see change in families, and then even in jobs. So people are home and they're starting to think about, do I really want to do this? Is this what really makes me happy or excited to get up in the morning? And then it's providing the opportunity for people to start thinking, what else would I do? What about that business I always wanted to start? What about the other career that I always put on the side burner because I wasn't sure about? Or maybe can I start thinking about what I would want to do and begin to explore, because they aren't sure, but they know what they don't want to do.
Yeah. So, that's really, really true.
It really is a time of change and a time for us to stay curious and stay open to possibilities.
100%. And what are you noticing that people are sort of like needing or wanting more of right now?
I think they need a couple of things. I think they really want to get connected to what they care about the most, their whys. So I think they need to be clear as to what that why is, because people are feeling like they're going every which way. But if you don't have your real why for your direction, your North Star, if you don't have that dream set out for yourself, then you're just wandering, meandering, versus having your sights on something, right? And that in and of itself is a challenge, because sometimes people are scared to say what they want. Yep. Sometimes people don't say what they want because other people might not like the idea of it. Like there's lots of reasons why people aren't really clear as to being able to articulate what they want. So part of the work is getting people playful and curious about, what do you want? What would that look like for you? A year out from now, can you imagine yourself doing something, what that would feel like, which then gives you the why. So that's one thing, getting people in their why, and then really starting to examine, like, wait, why not? What's getting in my way, right? And then from that place, you can start to, then we start to get people in action. Right? So it's like, people really need to be clear on their why. People need to get curious about, what is getting in our way? Because our method, we have a motto that's, maybe it's you, and then really just take the maybe out, because
it's you.
And if it's you, that's actually really good news, because it means you could do something about it. So if you know what you want, or even if you don't know what you want, but you realize like there's something you could do about it, there's power in that.
I love that. That's so beautiful. And, when people are trying to figure out their why and their guiding North Star and all of these different things, what are some of the limiting beliefs that keep people stuck in where they are, to maybe feel like they can't access that point, or maybe, have kept them small for so long?
Yeah, well, in the method, we talk about you have voices in your head, right? So there is what we call the dream voice, the voice of like, what it is that you want, right? But very often that voice is really tiny and it's not really talking very loud. But then we have other voices in our head that are really loud, that are diversions, that are sneaky. And that's the voice of the chicken. We call it the chicken because it's like a little humorous, right? Instead of fear. But the chicken is a voice of just being scared to take a step. And then we have the voice of the brat. Like, I don't want to, you can't make me. I deserve it. I should have had it. Why not me? I've worked hard enough, right? And then we have a voice of a weather reporter, which is the voice of being a victim. Like the weather reporter reports on the weather like there's nothing you could do about it. We have a voice that's like, nothing I could do about it. The body, it's just in the genes. I was, just the way I was built. I just
Yeah.
have to eat the cookie. It's pandemic. Things are rough for everybody. I can sleep later, right? So we have these voices in our head that really start to sabotage us. And then the game is going to be to get curious and to giggle at them, but be able to hear them for what they are, called not the truth, called the diversion, called the thing that's actually taking you away from what you really want. So anything that's not in service. So we have people start to catch their thoughts, right? Because your thoughts drive your actions, which drive your results. So if you keep catching your thoughts and you hold that thought up, like now that I have my dream written, I wrote this dream out and I'm like, oh, I can feel it. I can taste it. There's feeling in it. There's no negatives. There's no digs. It's like powerful. So I read this dream and I'm like, yes. Right. And then I have a thought. I take that thought and I go, is that in service of the dream? And if it is, yay, keep going. And if it's not, then we start to design, if it's not, we're like, okay, then you don't have to listen to that voice. But we've got to shift that voice, design something different, begin to get you in the right action to start proving something different. So in the method, we really do this 3-pronged approach of like, what do you want? What's the dream? Then we go, well, what's getting in the way? Mostly what your inner dialogue is. What are you thinking? What are you believing? Like what theories or assumptions of the way you think the world work is there that's actually not in service of that dream? And then once you know that, how do you start taking the right action? Right? Because most of us are only 3 promises away from whatever dream we want, 3 actions away from what we want. Now they need to be the right action. They need to be specific and measurable. They need to be a stretch, but doable, right? But once you start to combine those 3 pieces, what do you want? What's your why? Then, wow, what am I thinking? What's actually getting in the way? Because if it's me, I have the power to do something about that. And then what actions do I take to make the difference?
That's really
As
good.
we keep playing those 3, then like you write the dream and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, I got this dream. What? Oh, I can't have it. Why not? Oh, my house is too small. Oh, I've tried too many times before. Oh, I'm just not good with technology. Oh, I've never been good with money. Okay, wait, are those in service of the dream? Yes or no? Let's start to unpack them, look at them, really debunk them for what they are, and then get into new actions that's going to prove something different.
I love that.
Simplifying it a little bit, but as you go through, like when we take you through the method and you go step by step, you really are taking one bite of that at a time. So it becomes much more understandable or manageable, and you're not feeling like, how do I do it?
In like every single area. And I think a lot of the times too, people think that change needs to happen in every single area right now. And the biggest like block that I see with that is that it's the easiest way to self-sabotage yourself, right?
Totally. You just start doing too much and watch what happens, right? But if you think carefully about, usually the places that we are not doing well in, the areas of life that we're not doing well in, there's patterns and themes to those areas. So if you're not doing well in money, there's some version or some patterns or themes that will show up in love or in relationships. So once you start to catch your patterns and themes, then you can start to understand your theories, or you can start to design the right actions.
That's a really interesting thought. And I love that you said that, because I feel like they all are so interconnected, because us as human beings, that's how we are. You know what I mean? Like thoughts happen and they can be compartmentalized into different areas, but also they don't exist on their own. Do you know what I mean? Like every thought kind of flows to the next. But what I love so much about what you said about that is that, you'll see little remnants of that initial thought in something else. And I think that's just a really good point to point out to everyone who's listening right now, because that is like, that could be the missing link between why everything is working out in this one area and why something else isn't working here. And like, let's dig a little deeper and figure out why.
Totally. And then we all have areas that work for us, and that's a yay, right? And so you should cheer yourself, celebrate that. That's awesome. And then the areas that don't, really look at it from the place of, let me get curious about what's not working.
Yeah.
Not to beat myself up, not for shame or embarrassment, but simply because that's the way to make the change to do something different. Right. So what I like to say, a thought leads to a feeling, leads to an action. So you can catch a thought and then go, wow, now I understand what I'm feeling. Oh, now I understand why I take the action that I took. Right. Or you could go the other way. I'm just going to take the action, which is then going to change my feeling, which is then going to change my thought. Like if I decide that there's cake sitting there and I'm like really proud working on my body and I see the cake and I'm like, my action is I'm not eating the cake. My action might even be I'm going to throw the cake away, right? Which leads to a feeling called I'm proud, I'm feeling strong, I'm feeling confident, which then leads to a thought. I got this. I'm good. You know, so
that's good.
Or you go the other way, a thought that's like, oh, things are really going bad for me. Then you lead to a feeling which is called a little despondent or disappointed. And then you lead to the action, well, I'll go eat the cake. Right. So you can catch it from either direction and make a difference.
I love that. I love that you can flip that like that. I never thought about it that way. Of course, the actions, because I think that, you know, people talk a lot about aligned action, especially when you're building a business, let's say, you know, people will say a lot about aligned action, making sure that what you're doing, the tasks that you're doing are aligned to who you are, to what you do, and to why you do it. And, you know, that idea of aligned action actually can be in every single area of your life. It doesn't have to just be that one thing. And then I think, you know, to what you were saying, when you're able to do that, then you can start being in alignment in all the areas of your life because you're allowing yourself to sort of catch that thought. I love that. That's great, Hildie.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's back to leaving you the author, right? It's back to giving you the power. And especially during this time of the pandemic and everything else that's going on, most people are feeling unsettled because they're not feeling they have the power to author something. And so what we can do is like give you the power back. Just like what I was joking, like maybe it's you. That is a gift, because if it's you, then you can do something about it. So if you could start to change your thought or choose the right action, either way you go, you are actually back to authoring. And I have found, you know, in all areas, even as I work with people that are in their last phase of life and designing, saying goodbye or saying goodbye to a loved one who's in their last phase of life, even at that phase, people just need to author. People need to feel that they can have some authorship in their life. So during this pandemic time, like people are most upset and anxious when they don't have power. So a great way to take your power back is to stop and go, what actions would be in service of that dream? Right? So one, write a beautiful dream, right? And then once you have the dream, you can actually start and go, what actions would really help me? You know, if I want to, work on my money dream, what actions could I take? Oh, I could build a budget. You know, if I want to work on my body dream, oh, I could design some specific rules for myself for what I eat or when. You know, if I want to design a relationship with a loved one or a romantic relationship, I can have rules for, how to take care of that person, how many times a week to have a vulnerable conversation, when for intimacy. You can just set promises, which, once you're in action, there's a level.
I want to quickly pause this interview and tell you about the Handel Group coaches that I've had the honor and privilege of bringing onto the Happiness Happens podcast. With every conversation and interview, I've learned something so impactful and so life-changing. InnerU Life is the online coaching course from Handel Group that gives you the tools to get yourself unstuck, wildly happy, and thriving where it matters most to you. Your relationship to yourself, career, love, body, money, time, and more. From wherever, whenever. Recommended by Hugh Jackman, Dr. Mark Hyman, Forrest Whitaker, Elena Brower, and hundreds more. Taught in MIT, Stanford School of Business, and 50-plus institutes of learning across the world. Visit inneru.coach and use the code happinesshappens at checkout for $75 off. Now, back to the episode.
The pride and confidence that comes with that, which keeps you moving forward, right?
I
Because you're
love that.
changing the thought.
That's it, exactly. And I think you just kind of hit the nail on the head there. You know, it allows you to be more confident, because confidence is such a key driver to accomplishing the dream that you set out for yourself, because you need to feel like you can actually do it. But like you said before, this time, it brings so much uncertainty, and so therefore brings so much doubt in what's the next thing going to be, like what's going to happen, what's going to happen to my house, to my job, my money, like all of these different things that people worry about, where, you know, what you're saying is create that dream for yourself, and then all the actions that you take to support that dream will get you to where you want to go. And it's like, it's trusting that what you want, it wants you back, because it always does.
Totally. And who you declare you are is what comes following you, right? So the way you declare who you, like, you're right, it's that confidence and it's that clarity that then it leaves you with a whole different way of experiencing your world. And like, that is really what I think happiness is. It's not getting the thing, it's how you are in the process, right? So you could not be the weight you want to be at, you cannot have the job you want, your business could not be where you are, but if you have designed your actions that we call promises, which means you're making a promise to yourself and to what you really care about, right? If you're taking the right actions, there's a level of confidence and pride and joy that comes with that. And that's the game. It's not the result. It's like how you are going through the process that matters.
That's so beautifully put, Hildie. I love that so much. It's so true. And it makes me wonder too, like in this time right now, how and why is it so important to really have like a consistent practice to take care of your mind, your body, and your spirit, especially when you're trying to create something new for yourself in your life?
It's critical because it's back to really authoring, and it's the mind, the heart, the spirit. It's exactly what I was talking about. The heart, spirit is the dream, the mind is the thoughts, and the body is the action.
Right.
So aligning them all together is, that's what we call true integrity, like lining all those together across, which is what leaves you proud. And it's absolutely critical, because without one, there's an imbalance there. You could do the right thing, right? But you could take the right action, but if it's not aligned with the right dream, there's like a disconnect. Or you can have a gorgeous dream and you could sit there and go, oh, that's it. But if you're not taking the action,
what's the point?
Sit there and you can be like having the dream, like called, I want a body that, moves and can experience the world and then pick up the babies and, love my life in. That's the dream. Yay. And you're taking the right action, calling, I'm working out, I'm drinking water, I'm, eating well. But if your inner dialogue is like, this is too hard, why is it me? How come she can have the ice cream I want, what he has? This is not fair. It's back out of alignment again. So I think those things lined up is absolutely critical for like a sense of balance.
I agree with that a lot. And what would you recommend people could do to get themselves back into balance?
I'd say first things first is to write a dream, to get clear on your why. Because then what happens, you hold your thoughts up to the dream and you're like, is that in service of the dream? Then you hold the actions up to the dream and you're like, wait, is this action going to really help me for that dream? But sometimes we take these little actions that don't really help the dream. So I would say first thing you should do is sit down and go, let me just write a paragraph about something I really want. And let me put feeling in it. Let me make it a year from now. Let me write it in the present tense. So I'm tricking my mind to believe it's actually
happening.
Happening.
Yeah.
No negatives or digs to like really kill the joy around it.
Yeah.
And let me just write that. And then once you get that, read it every day. Because as you read your dream, it's going to start to train your mind to think differently. And then you also could design the right actions.
I love that. And when you're writing your dream or your why, how many different things can you have in there? Should it be specific to one area?
Well, we take your life and we divide your life into 12 areas. So there's money, there's career, there's body and health, there's romance and, love, there's spirituality, there's home. So I would say you should write a dream for one specific area, because if you start adding too many things in, it gets to be a mishmash, which is very hard to be specific and measurable. It's hard to make that specific and measurable. So I would say divide your life into your areas and then pick an area that you really want to work on and then write the dream for that area.
I love that. Now, what if you want to write the dream for all of the areas?
Awesome. When we do our online digital program, we do have you take the time to write the dream for each of the areas, which is great because it starts you thinking, what do I care about? What do I care about with my home? Do I really care about, furniture, or do I care about having an opportunity for my family to be together and to sit at a table? Do I need a big table? Oh, you can bet I do, right?
Exactly. Well, especially with all your grandkids.
I know. And, am I going to have healthy, organic food? Yes. Is it going to feel comfortable? Is it going to be a place that people feel welcomed? Of course, right? So I would, so you can start to think about your dream in the context of, I would take one area and then think about the bullet points for what you want in that area, and then begin to weave it into like a written,
like story,
right, what we call a dream, right? And then you could just slowly do that for all 12 areas, which is awesome because it gets you clear. And then from that, you pick the top 3 areas that you want to work on most. Yeah. Right? You're not going to work on all 12 at once, but we go pick the top 3. But the first thing we'll have you do, if you do InnerU, which is our online digital program, or if you even work with a coach, is to have you think about your dreams for all 12 areas. They don't all have to be brilliantly written, but it starts to get you thinking. So you begin to put those puzzle pieces together for yourself.
And you're literally designing your life.
Yeah, literally. And then what I do is I take my top dreams and I print them out and I leave them on my desk. And then every morning I read my dreams.
Oh, right? I love that.
Which has me go like, oh, that's right. That's why I'm doing that. Like, that's why I'm eating well. And, that's why my home matters to me. So I really, and it's training my mind to speak a language. Look, dreaming is not easy. It's a new language. We're taught very early on we get disappointed and we begin to dumb our dreams down. It's like, oh, I don't need to be like an amazing expert coach. I could just be a good coach. I could be like a good coach, right? Versus like, I'm a radical healer on a divine mission to change the world, to get people happy and proud. Very different,
Very different.
Right. But so we dumb our dream down, which is, we're training ourselves to speak differently. We're learning a new language. Right.
It's so true. Especially because our minds are not programmed to think positively first. It's very, very easy to just get stuck in like the negative and get stuck in the, the negative stories or the limiting beliefs or the why, this thing sucks or why this will never work or because it's almost like, when you do that, you take away like the, I don't want to use the word like accountability. You know what I mean? Like you take away the accountability to have more, or like the opportunity maybe to have more than what you've actually set out for yourself. So you're like blocking yourself from even achieving it.
Exactly. And it's sneaky because then like the bummer is you're missing the dream. You're not really playing for the dream. You're dumbing the dream down. Exactly. And it's sneaky because then you're like, oh, this is good enough. without really playing big, because the places that we're most proud of in our life are the places that were hard, that we really had to fight for, right? Like, think of the things you're most proud of in your life. They're not the things that were like, oh, I hopped on the bike and I rode it first time, or
That's it.
I signed up for the race and I ran it and it was no problem. Like, the things you're proud of is like, I worked every day and, ran every day and I did it. I ran those 5 miles, or I ran that marathon, or, I fell 15 times and got back up until I figured out how to ride that bicycle, or,
Exactly.
I struggled with that business and really had to stick with it. Like, I needed a new level of stick-to-itiveness, right? So, yeah, I think the things that we are proud of are the things that really do take something.
I love that so much. I love that so much. And I really think that, you've spoken on this a couple different times in terms of like taking action towards your dream, but is there anything that we can do immediately to take control of our lives, even when something feels like it's out of reach?
Yeah. And I'm going to say, if you make a promise for yourself and then you don't get to vote on it, like most of us go, I'm going to take an action. I'm going to walk tomorrow morning because that's going to be good for my body and good for my mind. And then you get up and you're like, I wonder, do I want to walk? Let me look outside. Let me see do I want to? Which is right there. You're giving yourself a chance to vote, which means the voices that we talked about before, the brat, like, I don't want to, why should I? It's I should, yeah. Or the chicken, oh, what if I see somebody and I'm not looking my best? Or the weather reporter is like, oh, nothing I can do about it. I have so much work. I have to stay here and work all day. Maybe I'm here. So what I tell people is, when you sit down, when you're having a moment of clarity, right, and you read your dream, so it's sit there and then you go, okay, what 2 actions or 3 actions do I know is going to be in service of that dream? Most of us really do know. We act like we don't, but we really do. If someone was going to give you $1 million, could you figure out what 3 things would really help towards that dream? Most of us would be like, for $1 million, I could tell you the 3 things somebody else should do, not me.
Yeah, exactly. Let me tell you.
Right. Totally. So if you sit down in the moment of clarity and you write it down specific and measurable, I'm going to walk every morning for 30 minutes. I am going to research, every day for half an hour about my business. I am going to get online and, write a note to 3 women, men, significant, somebody who you'd be interesting to you. Once a night, I'm going to sit down and search and write 3 messages to somebody. Like, and you make it that specific and measurable. And then you take away your ability to vote on it.
Ooh,
right?
I like that.
And then I'm like, I don't know, maybe not today. Like today, I'm not really feeling very motivated. I've had a bad day. It's not a day to look for somebody online. Like, you can hear how the voices in your head will really sabotage the dream.
100%. Oh my God, that's so true. It's so true. When you really think about it, you'll come up with any excuse if it means that you don't have to be accountable to the thing that you said you'll do.
Totally. And then bonus is tell somebody, because we do a much better job keeping our promise or our word to somebody else than we really do to ourselves.
It's so true. That's so true.
Such a human thing. Right?
It really is. I find that a lot right now with like just working out. Like I try and do it in the morning so I can get it sort of like, done before the day begins and all that kind of stuff. And I wake up every day and I'm like, oh, but that is so comfy. Like it's so comfortable in here. But the days that I tell my fiance, I'm like, okay, I'm waking up. I'm going to do my workout. I get up. I'm like, oh, I can't not do it now. I got to wake up. I got to do it.
Because then he's going to look at you and you're going to go, oh, I don't want him to think I didn't do it.
Exactly. Like, no, I do everything that I say I'm going to do.
Totally. And when somebody else is there, we are much better at that.
100%. 100%. Hildy, I think you might remember this question from the last time we spoke, but this is the question that I ask all my guests when they come onto the show. And it's it's one of the last questions that I'm going to ask you today. And it's how can our listeners create a little more happiness in their day, every day, starting today?
Good question. And I'm going to say to make a promise specifically about what you could do to make you happy. So
Ooh.
I have a couple promises. One, I do one random act of kindness a day, which really does make me happy, right? Because doing something for somebody else always cheers you up. And I have another promise where I have to actually dance to a song every day.
I love that.
I have a little personality trait that I nicknamed No Fun Done, and she just really wants to work all the time. My last name is Dunn, so it's
That's hilarious.
Right. But No Fun Done would be like, there's no time for fun. We should work really hard. There's so many things to do, so many people to save, so many places to go. Oh, no. Right. But the lighter you are, the more fun you have, the more it just really frees you up to see everything clearer. So for me, I do those two things. I do one random act of kindness a day, and I have to dance for a song. I don't have to go any longer than a song, but I have got to actually get up, put a song on, and move my body to a song.
Do you sometimes do more than one song?
Sometimes I just can't help myself.
Oh, I just love that. What a great, I love that. I love that so much. A lot of people have said, move your body, like, not to this answer to the specific question, just people I've talked to in the past, like dance, like put on a song and dance and move your body and like break up the energy and like let it go. You know what I mean? And it's like not until you actually do that where you're like, oh, like I feel so much better.
Totally. And I'm not allowed to vote because I made that promise for myself, because voting, I'll be like, oh, it's just not a good morning. I'll do it this afternoon. Or like, oh, this has been such a hard day. There's so much going on. I'll do it tomorrow. One day doesn't really matter, right? But when I make promise and I have to hold myself to it, then it's just, I don't get to vote. I'm like, nope, song time. Just do it. Just do it.
Exactly.
No voting.
I love that. I know for sure that that's a different answer than what you gave last time. So I love it. I know, didn't say the same thing twice. No, I'm just kidding. I love, love, love that. Hildie, where can our listeners find you?
Oh my gosh, if you go to handelgroup.com, HANDEL group.com, or if you go to InnerU.coach, so it's INERU, the letter U.coach, there's our all information about our digital online program that we call InnerU. And your people, because it's you and you're special and we just love you so much. Aww. If they put in your code, which is
happiness happens,
they get InnerU for half off. So that's $325 versus $650, and it gets you 12 modules of audio. There's assignments that you write out. You get a free coaching session with a coach.
Amazing.
Get a masterclass, 6 classes in a row, 6 weeks in a row, that like really helps you dive in and get started. You can do as many of those as you want. So it comes with a lot of options to really support people to go at a pace that's right for them, but to really dive in and do the work.
I love that.
To help them figure out where they're stuck.
It's honestly, it sounds incredible. And you know what it is too? It's accessible, because especially in this time, like things are, it's not as easy to invest in yourself. You know what I mean? Especially if you've lost your job, or, if, you're uncertain about your job on a day-to-day, or you don't know where your next paycheck's going to come in from. It can be very, very uncertain. But sometimes, like you were saying earlier, you said this a little bit earlier on the show, it's about taking a little bit of action like that makes you stretch just a little bit, just enough to get you outside of your comfort zone, just enough to push you into a different direction. And, things happen for a reason. You end up, listening to this podcast because you're meant to be listening to this podcast. You know what I mean? And so I think that it's worth it. The links are going to be in the show notes so people can easily get to it and just click.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, I had so much fun talking to you. it never lasts long enough. It always feels like I need more time.
I know. I feel the same way. I'm like, oh, until next year. Let's just make this a reoccurring episode every year, you and I.
I love that.
I do too. Me too. I love it. Amazing. Thank you so much, Hildie, for coming on today. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning into today's episode. Please be sure to share this with someone who you know needs to hear this message. Tag us and let us know that you're listening. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the show. And remember that happiness happens when you're least expecting it. Thanks so much for being here today. I hope these words have brought you inspiration, insight, and a bit more happiness. Please leave a comment or a review if this episode resonates with you. I would be so grateful. Until next time, remember that happiness happens when you're least expecting it.